Right. They're going to be what they're going to be.
It's going to be what I want it to be. I want to be able to be spontaneous with my husband, which is
Yes.
the right subject to be talking about with you of all
Amen.
people,
I told you,
because
speaking
this
my
is what you
language.
specialize in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Specialize in career women whose jobs are in demanding, or it's not a job if it's a career, whose
Mm-hmm.
profession are in demand, and making sure you have that balance with those special
Mm-hmm.
people in your life, friends, family, and
That's
spouse.
right.
And
Yes.
that's what I am doing. I am focusing on me and my man.
That's
And
right.
we can travel, we can go
Mm-hmm.
wherever we want to go, see people. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how much of that we're going to do with COVID-19. Or we can sit around, scratch our ass, and look at each other. Can I
Exactly.
borrow the remote?
Exactly. And feel absolutely at peace doing it.
That's right.
I'm
And
not mad at
whatever
that.
that is, we got some plans in the mix, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is, that's my prerogative and my time.
I love it. And I commend you for
Oh,
honoring yourself first and foremost, because you know that you need this before you hit any version of a burnout, right? Like you're like,
that's
I've been
right.
there, done that, bought a t-shirt and a ball cap to that party before. And I am more than okay with being naked and not walking in to my next level of self with those particular
Yes,
burnout uniform. So I
yes,
commend you for honoring yourself, Gracie. That matters. A lot of us are, so overly focused with scarcity, right? That they're like, oh, I can't take a day, I can't take an hour, I can't take 10 minutes, I definitely can't take 3 days. And I stand in when you give yourself that true permission to pause, giving yourself permission. And I
that's
don't
right.
care, there's no judgment on the time frame. Whatever that time frame looks like for you, you're
That's
so
right.
much better and you pull so much more into you that you
Yeah,
really want when you do it, much
I
faster
can
than
be a
if you were
better
spinning.
boss. Yes, I can be a
Yes.
better boss to my team. I can be a
Yes.
better business woman. I'm running
Yes.
3 businesses, and I
Mm-hmm.
can give my best performance. I can continue to be successful like I am. And Naketa,
Absolutely.
my speaking efforts have taken off. I did three
Ooh.
events last week. 3 events.
Yes,
Two of them,
honey.
I was a speaker at 2 events in one day for the same
Awesome.
organization. Then I
Mm-hmm.
had a 3-day summit, which was
Mm-hmm.
Friday. The 2 events was on Friday, and then the
Mm-hmm.
summit was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday
Oh,
from nine
wow.
to
Yeah.
five.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's good, not complaining,
Mm-mm.
but like you said, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to know when to do that, to your point,
Mm-hmm.
before you get to the burnt out place, because everyone handles stresses differently.
Yep.
And then you're flipping out on this person, or you're feeling defeated and
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, or whatever the case may be, whether you feel weak or meek,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, no one deserves that. So you need to take care of yourself so that you can be at
Guaranteed.
best,
Yes.
your best at all time for all the areas, spaces, and people that
Mm-hmm.
are connected to you. So
Absolutely.
talking to you always give me that reinforcement. Since you and I met, has encouraged me and inspired me. And I jump in from time to time on your live shows.
I
And
know.
I'm like,
Thank you
I
for
need that reinforcement.
that. The intimacy advantage, yes. Because
That's right.
there
Absolutely.
literally is an advantage of developing that self-intimacy, let
Yeah.
alone the bonus benefits that your lover gets, right? Like
Right.
when you're feeling more vivacious and courageous because you're not feeling so drained and exhausted and you're tired is tired, right? And
Mhm.
all of that, your forever love gets the benefit from that. And I am not just talking about sex, like I'm including that,
That's
but
right.
I'm not just talking about that. You're a
That's right.
completely different mood. You know how people say that's a whole mood? You
Mm,
are a completely different mood when you're not exhausted. I know I am not the person to be around if I am exhausted. It is just, it's not a good look for my kids. The grandkids always get the best of everything I got left, but that's because they are not talking back yet, right? Like they're only
right.
they're not even 3 and 2 yet. But it's really important for you to give yourself that. So I commend you. And of course, your Forever Love gets extra bonuses with this
That's right.
vacation coming up too.
Communication, a smile instead of an attitude. You got a
Exactly.
smile, that pleasant.
Hmm.
To him, I feel more approachable
Right.
and lighthearted
Hmm.
and fun and can
Yeah.
laugh and joke and take a joke and have a sense of humor. All these things matter and
Yeah.
it's important for us. Which brings me to the topic that we decided
Yes,
to
I
put on the shelf for today, and that
am.
is blessings versus blessings.
Yeah.
And it was the bad experiences that develop into success stories.
Oh God, I have a ton of those.
Oh my God. And what a great way to start this segment off talking about this.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. So from just staying in the professional, and then if you allow me, we can go deeper into the
Sure.
personal. Professionally, I would have to say one of, just being time reflective, one of the biggest hard lessons that I had was when I started my journey as an entrepreneur almost 10 years ago. May 2021 will be 10 years for us. And that was an interesting kind of what do you call it? A roller coaster, right?
Mm,
Like that emotional roller coaster, as Vivian Green
mhm.
says, like emotional roller coaster of all kinds of things that were going on, and that I was fired up. I was excited. I could not wait to start. And
Mm,
I am a nerd for life. So all of my research brain went on. I'm very tied to
I love it.
learn, right? Like, and I'm tied to learning the rules so I can find out how to break them. Like I am definitely like that is my inner, right? Like I'm very rebellious, always
I
have
love
been.
the honesty.
And it's always been my way. Like I want to know, like, and so I'll look like a rule follower in the
Right, but
beginning
you're
because
not.
I'm like, oh, Gracie said, do this, do it this way. And I'm like, yep, I'm following until I'm like,
A
oh,
second.
it's better
I'm
if
taking notes.
right? Gracie's like, I'm paying attention to this just in case you thought I wasn't. So when you start breaking rules, I know where it's coming from. And I'm waiting for the opportunity to beta test, if you will, if
Yeah,
bending to the left or the right makes it easier or faster for me.
right.
Because, selfishly, I am looking for the fastest, straightest path that I can get, knowing that there's lots of curves and dips and all kinds of things.
For the same results or
Yeah.
outcome.
Oh, yeah. Or better,
Mhm.
right? Like,
That's for better.
that's
Mhm.
that early entrepreneur brain that I didn't even know I had, because I didn't know that I was inherently an entrepreneur. I just knew that I really like freedom, and I love flexibility, like
Yeah.
even more than freedom. And I know they go hand in hand, but that's so important because I'm such a type A person with
Mhm.
schedules, and my calendar is my second Bible, right? Like I have, so much planned in my day that if you take away my flexibility, to me, that is suffocating on so
Yeah.
many levels. So I'm constantly like looking for ways to maintain those moments. And when I looked at the opportunity of becoming an entrepreneur, I mean, the freedom and flexibility jumped off the pages. I was like, woo, yes. And I rushed into it. I jumped all the way in 10 feet without a anything, whatever that is that you're supposed to keep on you to keep from drowning. I
The
didn't have
life
that.
preservers.
The life preserver, I didn't have that. And I went in with great intentions, wholeheartedly. I went to Wharton to get consultants to review my 68-page business plan. Like I'm like
Mm,
super nerd life, graphs and charts and all of the research and everything to do it. We started our company as a staffing agency with a professional development arm. And
wow.
the idea was and is brilliant. Companies are doing it to this day. We said we would have a staffing agency and offer them training as our kind of coffee mug, get in the door. Oh, wow, this training is so awesome. We want you to bring all your people here. That was my thought. And then
Right.
eventually they would want us to train their people for retention purposes. So it was early days in retention. Still very personal development based, helping people understand the soft skills of leadership are very valuable, all the things. But I did not understand walking into staffing as the primary goal that not only was very male dominated, and I am very feminine, in all those ways, right? I didn't understand the language of a male dominated space. I worked as a psychotherapist prior to that. So you could have male energy, but they still have to tap into the feminine energy. So there was a lot of things early on that I didn't understand. And we lost over $100,000 in the first 6 months of our business, literally from the time that we opened the doors. And we officially opened doors in October. So we celebrate 2 birthdays, the May and the October, because we had a brick and mortar 1,500 square foot building, 3-year commercial lease, like the whole nine. Because when I go in, I go
You
all the
have a
way in.
very intensive background.
Yeah, it's special. Like, it's special. And we did that. And I say we because my husband and I are both co-owners. He's also a co-founder. He very much is the wizard behind the curtains, making a lot of the magic happen. If we could get him to be front facing, it would be a miracle. And he's a shareholder at this point, but he doesn't work in the business in a traditional way. So when we opened and he was, coming early in the morning to vacuum the office space for me before he left for his hour drive out to Bluebell to do work, and then coming back to secure it up and make sure we were okay. We were definitely partners in all of the technical things, but I wasn't leveraging his operations brain. Part of me was scared to give over that power, quite honestly. So there was that dynamic, that imbalance of, hey, in our house, you're the leader of our home, and I respect that and I support that. And, let me be very clear, we're both alpha, so there's no dominating in our home in that way. But I do respect him as the leader of our home. But at work, hey, I'm running this, right? Like
exactly, because not for nothing, that's your project, that's your baby, and you don't mind him sharing the ownership and co-founder part, but it's yours because I've experienced it. Even in my marriage, it's like my husband says, "So the business is not mine either." I said, "I had this business before you."
Listen.
You can help out, but is yours when you want to invest as much time and effort as I do.
Yeah.
And second, you don't want to be reminded of what they've done for you and how they've done with you, because as a spouse, that's an expectation to support your support system.
1,000%.
So there's so many different types of emotions that run into it when you're fortunate enough to have a supporting spouse.
Yeah.
These are the hangups that you get caught into. And it's not that you don't want to share it with them. It's just that this is something you built from the ground up.
Yeah. And you're potentially relinquishing power. Yeah. Like there's that relinquishing of power. Yeah. And for me in the early stages, I had a little bit of the opposite issue is he was trying to push me into claiming my power. And I was resistant because I had found out super early, with my research, like this is kind of male dominated. And so there's usually older white men at the table, and I'm a young Black woman. So I didn't want anybody getting the wrong idea. I didn't want to have to go to jail because someone making an inference, like real talk. I'm from Philly.
But
exactly. Like I did, and I was still being healed, right? Like I was I wasn't quite at the level that I'm at now. And I was just like, oh, I don't have to cut nobody. Like I still carry the knife, everywhere I went. Like
anything, even if it's a plastic butter knife,
it was very serious. And there was that fear, right? Because I still had that unhealed, inner child energy from all of my trauma and the multi-traumas and all of that. And I was still trying to step into this role powerfully. So the first business cards my husband designed for us, he said he made them where I was president and CEO, and he was like, I think vice president and COO or something. And I was livid. I was livid at him because I said, no, I can't be president. They're not going to respect me. I'll be VP on paper. I'll be the face of the company. I'll do all the things, which means, behind the scenes, I need you to make sure that you support me in doing other things. But if I need you to come to a meeting or to get on the phone, I need you to be able to do that
face for your business.
Exactly. And so he consented to it reluctantly, but he really was frustrated because he was like, I love you and my daughter and my mother and my sister, obviously, but I'm not interested in women, right? Like, because the professional development arm was really, kind of like women, it was becoming more and more women focused. He was like, are you serious right now? Like, I don't want to be the president of this. Like, that's not my passion. That's your
Right.
passion, and I'm supporting you. And he's always very blunt and direct. And
Right.
my challenge was, he was telling me to step into my power, and I was saying no. I need to be back here. But then I was giving mixed messages, because to your point, if he
Mhm.
tried to give me some advice, I'm like, mm-mm. I've been
Yeah.
doing this for 12 hours today. No. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
but I thought I was president. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's on paper. It was like this really weird dynamic. So, short story shorter, being out of alignment, both at home and in person, was part of why we lost that money so fast. And that
Wow.
was a hard lesson. It obviously, it hurt us tremendously financially. Like, it ended up snowballing to a bankruptcy, quite honestly. It took a couple years, but it was a big snowball to that. I
Mm-hmm.
had to struggle with getting clear on my identity, inside the ownership space of who I am as an entrepreneur. What does that really mean? Who am I? What does that look like? Am I a
Right.
clinician trying to play an entrepreneur, and I'm an entrepreneur, holding on to being a clinician? Like, what is happening for you right here? So I did all of those things, in such an emotional roller coaster, but it was the most priceless, beautiful lesson that I could have ever had. The blessing in it was the exposure of me and all the things that I didn't honestly even know I had to work on. I had no idea. Like, you would have asked me in 2011 if I have it all together, and I'm like, have you looked at me? Like, it
I
was
know.
just
Put a mirror in front of me and I'll tell you.
listen, look. Yes, like, have you, like, what?
Yeah,
Have
I
you
got it
not?
all together.
And been very serious about it. Not arrogantly, but feeling
But
confident
confident.
at
Yeah.
that level. And we forget that you can be extremely confident at your level, but
Yes.
if you're trying to level up over here and you still walking over here thinking that you're here, you're out of alignment. And I was totally out of alignment. So I appreciate what what God allowed. I was angry, I was frustrated, I was hurt, I was literally sick over it.
Yeah.
And our marriage really had a hard recovery from that, because my husband was like, you look, all of our savings, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's real talk. We took out retirement plans, we cashed in things to
Huh?
make this thing work. And it had gotten so bad at one point that his check would go in at, I don't know, 6 a.m., whatever it, did, debits go
Morning.
into your, right.
Mhm.
At 6 a.m., his
9
was going
a.m. I
in,
know
and
exactly what time it hit the bank.
our payroll was coming out of it, because we had team. And he
Yeah.
was like, are you kidding me? Like, we have bills, we have priorities, we have things. And I had this people pleasing thing that I had to,
Yeah.
untether and unthread. And I didn't want to disappoint.
That's the women in us.
Oh, child. It was,
That's
it was
that mothering,
horrible.
the mothering in us. We
Yeah.
need to make sure we take care of our people, which is a great trait to have as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
because too frequently the men in the business world is like, gotta cut that where we gotta cut that. Sorry, Joe, I like you.
Mm-hmm.
You were great at what you do,
Mm-hmm.
but you ain't getting paid. In fact, I have to lay you off, and I think it's a little too harsh.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay for us to be the way we are, because we're putting our staff before ourselves in a
Mm-hmm.
way that brings loyalty
Right.
from
Right.
them and stuff. But there's other areas that we need to work on, which is, tied into your story that you share with
Mhm.
us, that will allow us the ability to do that,
Yeah, absolutely.
wholeheartedly without hurting ourselves
And
and
the people you love.
the people that you love. Exactly. Well, I'm
Listen.
gonna tell you something. Everything you're saying resonate for me. I'm more than sure that it resonates with so many other women and
Mhm.
stuff. It's a challenge. It
Yeah.
really is. And it's inspiring to hear you be so vulnerable about your blessings versus your lessons. So before we go on any further, because we're winding down on our time, what was the blessing? Emphasize on that blessing for us. You
Yeah.
gave us very details about
Yeah.
the lesson, but what was the blessing that came from it for you?
The initial blessing was the recognition that I had to become more aware of something deeper that needed to be healed within me. What it ended up, kind of creating and growing from me is I became an international best-selling author, telling my story, my survivor memoir in multiple categories, making sure that I was, and it's not a business book, right? Like it was just a space of me sharing, this is me not paying attention to what needed to be fixed and healed. This is how it impacted my real life, as a woman in 2020 in all the spaces. And this is me now, multiple six figures, running a global personal development company, being able to invest in my coaches and my incubators and all the things that matter to me so that I can pour out even more and create deeper transformations for every married woman entrepreneur and her brave husband, should they want to be in power couple, game with me, and be able to really help them take themselves to the next level. And it allowed me to be greater at the work that I was doing pretty well, but I needed to go to the next level with that. And all of that came from that very, very hard lesson.
Wow, that's remarkable. So my question, we normally ask the fun fact question, but because you are such a great friend to the program, we decided to do your interview slightly different to make the best use of your time. So the question that I have for you today is, what advice do you have for women like yourself, like myself, that could possibly experience anything similar to your story that you share? Because like I said to you, that story resonates very well with me.
Yeah.
The only thing that was different in your story from mine to some degree, the one thing that I want to point out, I'll say, is just like you were pushing your husband out there to be the face, but behind closed door, you wanted to hold your title and you didn't mind giving him the title on paper. What was similar for me is that I was doing the same thing with my husband, because as funny as it is in my head, it's very true in the real world. Men are viewed differently than women.
Yes.
Your husband is an African American man. My husband is white. So I was like, okay, now I really have it in my favor. Let's shove this white man
Right.
and let's let him be a great representation of Opulent Events by Gracie, because the perception of the business will be perceived much better than if this was in front of people.
Sad but true.
Very sad. And to your point again, they may turn around and say she's cute, but they're not going to look at me as the expert that I am, professional woman that I am. They're going to go, they probably got all kinds of dirty thoughts in their head. And even with Black men in the business world, I've had them have alternative motives with me.
Exactly.
Regardless to the fact that I said, I have a man at home. And this was before I married my husband. So I started bringing my husband to business meetings with me. And I slapped a title on there for him. And that was like a aha or reality check for some of these men that I was dealing with. And guess what? I lost the opportunity of working with them because they could no longer try to manipulate me with their nasty gain that they thought they were going to get.
Absolutely.
Or was going to try to get. So what advice could you have and that you can leave us with today for women that can possibly go through what you and I are going through in every aspect of your story?
I would literally say to lean in to that space, that part of you that knows that you want support, you want guidance, you want help. And it doesn't have to be from me, but you need it. But all you keep hearing is that sentence, which I believe so steadfastly. It's the most dangerous sentence that we can ever say, which is, I already know. Right. Right. Because and I've first partaker, I have definitely said it more than 100,000 times. Oh, I know. I already know. And that sentence gets us into trouble so many times because it stops us. It becomes a complete roadblock from getting to the next level. Oh, I already know these things. Yep, you probably already do, because we're brilliant. We're tapped in. Nothing is new under the sun. But what are you applying? And applying doesn't always mean doing, because we think it means that we have to now execute this thing, when applying could just be the being aware, being in a space
Wow.
of recognizing what got exposed and what needs to be unthread, rewired, reprogrammed, unattached from that emotion that's anchoring you to that stagnant, suffocating place. But because you already know, right? I already know you don't feel like you need therapy, spiritual counseling, coaching, advising, guidance, an incubator, whatever it is. I already amassed this. I already did this by myself. I said the same thing.
Mm.
I had accountability partners and felt like, well, that was close enough to coaching, and that was fine. And it wasn't. It just wasn't the same. And until I got into a space where I could really do the healing, and I needed support in doing that, because I already freaking know, right? Like, because I know all the things. I got enough degrees for all of us, right? Like, I
Yeah.
already know, but I wasn't already applying in a consistent, kind of systematic way for me. And that would honestly be my takeaway for everyone, besides being okay with being selfish, because I stand in that. Like,
There
get
you go.
selfish, fill up, and then you can pour out selflessly, from that space of being full. But outside of that, it would really be like backing up and just listening in to where that I already know is
Yeah.
keeping you stuck.
Oh yeah, because even with my husband, when I plead with him to, get more involved, and he's very, don't get me wrong, he's very much involved. He's my rock,
Yeah.
great support system, and nobody understands what we go through as entrepreneurs. And one thing I definitely want to say to end this chat off for other people to hear is that what you went through is humbling.
Mm-hmm.
Be an entrepreneur, you get beat up so much emotionally and
Yep.
mentally. And you need to be willing to do all the things that you advise. Listen,
Yep.
slow it down, take a step back, and then learn from those lessons so that you can get your blessings. And it's a humbling experience if you allow it to be.
Mm.
But I know for a fact, there's been plenty of times my husband come to me and he'll want to share his thoughts on a challenge that I'm facing or dealing with that I clearly need help and guidance on. And because of his approach, I go, I know,
I
God,
know this life so
I'm not
well.
stupid. I've been doing this far longer than I met you. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel bad afterwards. And I know that I have to stop and I have to change that and control that. And it's something I've been working on for quite some time. But the stress and the pressure, no excuse with the
Yeah.
but part,
Mm-hmm.
the stress and the pressure sometimes get the best of you. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
it's important for us to be selfish and
Yes.
take care of ourselves. Because if you take care of yourself, body, mind, and soul, then you don't have those moments where you're popping off on your greatest support system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because there's
Yes.
not many men out there like your husband and mine that's
So
going to
true.
stand by us in our endeavors as a businesswoman and support us financially, emotionally, mentally, and business wise for strategic planning. Not many men out there are going to do that. I
Right.
remember the very, very beginning of me living with my husband before we got married and still being, a fairly new business owner. He was like, I feel like I'm working two jobs. I said, well, I'm your wife.
That's right. This is prescribed. This is like required
That,
prescription.
there you go. And when I said, when you met me, you said, I commend you, Gracie. And I said, why? He says, I have so much admiration for you. I said, but why? I wanted to know what was my characteristics doing that stood out for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, the fact that you have a business, you left your job, your employment, and
Yes.
you have a business and all that you've accomplished. And at that time, I think it was 3 years. He said,
Mhm.
all that you've accomplished in 3 years, some people haven't done in a lifetime
So
and
true.
stuff. And he says, you've got to give yourself credit for what you have accomplished. So those were very inspiring and stuff like that. Naketa, I'm going to tell you something. I have to keep saying it. I got to give credit where it's due. I am a #1 fan of yours. You
Oh,
are the
stop.
#1 advisor out there because you hit home on these topics and the conversation just happens so organically. So I'm going to say this to you before we leave and part our separate ways, but don't go anywhere before I say goodbye or after I say goodbye. It's always a joy and a pleasure to have you because your words touch home for so many people. If it touch home for me, I know what it can do for so many other people out there.
Thank
Take
you.